What was it that finally convinced McMahon to put Guerrero in the main event scene? What were some of the characteristics that Eddie had that maybe Vince loved as a performer?
Charisma. The fact that Eddie could work with anybody. He could work with a bigger baby face and make it real. He could work with a bigger heel and make it even more real. He brought the best out in everybody. If you poll the locker room, they're going to tell you that the two best workers we had at one point in time was Benoit and Eddie, because they were. And they were fresh. Eddie was hungry. He didn't want to be called a cruiserweight or a midget or whatever. But I think his consistency and the fact that everybody didn't want to work with him. When you have top guys going to the old man, just get FaceTime, and they're going to tell him, Vince, if I get a chance, I'd love to work with Eddie. Well, enough of guys did that, and they did. That Vince said, well, there's something here. And there was. He beats Brock Lesnar in the Cow Palace. Eddie Guerrero at 190 pounds. Lesnar 290. Made it believable. Nobody talks about, well, there's such a weight disparity. I didn't really get into the match because of the weight disparity. Well, then you're overthinking it, pal. You're overthinking this performance hard. Because Eddie Guerrero pulled that off. I was there. And, man, it was emotional as hell. It was great. I cried. A lot of guys cried because it was, for him, it was a realization of a lifelong dream to be the top guy in the biggest company.
But not too long before that, it looked unlikely. You know, he had that horrific New Year's Day crash just a handful of years prior to that. And, you know, the future was not guaranteed. And he had played hokey pokey with life a few times. Yeah. And to come out on the other side and now be the top guy.
Beautiful.
Because having that belt meant you were the top guy in the world.
Yeah, everywhere, every promotion. So he finally arrived, all 5'8" of him. So I loved him. I think about him a lot. I say some people didn't understand my logic of saying that Sammy Guevara reminded me of a young Eddie Guerrero, and he does. There are certain conversations I've had with Sammy. They remind me of conversations I had with Eddie at different times, highs and lows in his life. I always stuck by his side because I believed in him, and I knew that he had a good heart, Conrad. A good heart goes a long way with me. It really does, and Eddie had that, and the passion. And, you know, I told you the story, and I'll hit it real quick, but, you know, when he found out he was opening up a pay-per-view, he was violently angry. He demanded to see me and wanted to change and all that stuff, and I explained to him how important the first match on the pay-per-view actually was. He got the point, and he went out and tore it up. So, and that didn't hurt his stature in the company either. Opening the card and stealing the show was pretty damn impressive. So, but Eddie was just special. And like I said, I think the talent's coming to Vince saying, man, if I get a chance to work with Eddie, or they come to me and say, JR, at the house shows, live events, can you book me with Eddie sometime? They wanted it. They wanted the experience of working with him, to learn, and to feel what he does is so damn special. So I think Vince got plugged into that. And then, of course, you get the people that start chipping away. Well, you know, Vince, he's the shortest champion we've ever had in a company. He is? Aha! I didn't know that. So, what does it matter? What does it matter? People loved him, and he was just a great performer. I'm glad that before Eddie passed, he got those moments.
Absolutely.
I really am. I'm blessed that we were able to do that, because I think at least that was a happy thing in his life. And, you know, when we lost him, I thought we were out of the woods on those issues. I didn't know he had, you know, heart issue, whatever it was.
Right.
You know, I'm glad. The good thing about WWE nowadays, there's a lot of good things about them, quite honestly, is that they have a great medical program in place to take care of their talents. Because some talents just won't take care of themselves, and that's like we all got somebody in our life that we know that don't want to go to the doctor. They're afraid what they're going to hear. And I used to be that way. I'm not that way anymore. I'm probably a little more hypochondriac-like, but I want to make sure I'm okay. But Eddie was just so special. I'm glad that question came up, and I appreciate it.
Landals writes in, Jim, when you officially retire from pro wrestling as an announcer in AEW, who would you like to pass the torch to? Excalibur.
He's the guy. Does a good job. And Tony and I both have made a commitment to share any knowledge we have, anything he wants to hear with him, because somewhere down the road, he should be the voice of AEW. But I'm not quite ready to step aside right now, neither is Tony. But we're actually having a great time. You know, traveling with Tony from time to time. We did a show in Huntsville, you know, a week ago.
He's a fussy bastard.
Oh, yeah, he's an old woman. I love him, though.
He is. He's a weird guy.
I finally convinced Tony Khan how valuable Tony Schiavone would be if he was on our team and all the things he could do for us. And that was the best hire. One of the best hires Tony Khan has made is getting Schiavone back in the game. And I'm so glad he's on our team. But Excalibur's evolving, learning. He was never on a national broadcast. He was doing, little, very inexpensive little streaming shoots at PWG. So he's like a lot of our guys we have in the locker room. He's new, he's green, and he's learning. But he's going to be really good.
No doubt about it. Let's keep it moving. Let's do a question here that I know you're going to have an opinion on. It comes to us from Ben. As a longtime wrestling fan, I felt my fandom wane in the last few years thanks to bad booking, silly stories, etc. As someone who spent his entire life in the business, was there ever a time where you felt like you were falling out of love with wrestling?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know about falling out of love is what I would describe. I've had some, if wrestling has been my mistress all these years, sometimes your mistress can betray you and not be there when you think that he or she should be. There were times in WCW when we had so many booking changes, administrative changes, talent inmates running the asylum. That was very frustrating to go to work. That probably was the closest thing. And then I don't know in the era of where we got into an era of, in WWE where we had Goon and we had T.L. Hopper. We went to, not against those guys because they're probably better workers than a lot of workers we had. But it was just a matter of I didn't like that direction. Trying to create characters in that regard was not something I thought was the right thing to do or appropriate at that time, timely to say the least. That was a little bit. I don't know what the hell era we call that. Is that what was that called? It wasn't the Attitude Era, obviously, but it was something else. Ruthless aggression or something like that.
You mean before the Attitude Era with all the silly occupational gimmicks?
Yeah.
That was the new generation.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it was.
It was fake. And we know as wrestling fans, because we get hit with it enough, about the principles of our beloved business. Let's still go out of our way to create more fake.
Right.
Let's still go out of our way to make more eye-rolling content. Let's still go out of our way to create more bad drama scenes, bad acting. He didn't remember his lines. That's not the way it should be, in my opinion.
Over the Line Sports Podcast wants to know, how do you think your old friend Bob Stoops will do coaching in the XFL? Will Dallas be your rooting favorite? Without
a doubt. Bobby's one of my best friends, Coach Stoops. He had me on the sideline for 20 years for OU games, and Coach Lincoln Rowley has done the same thing with his hospitality. I was on the sideline for the college football playoff against LSU. Go Tigers. Good old Ed Orgeron. Go Tigers. I could probably do Ed Orgeron, right? Go Tigers.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. I like Bobby's a great guy. He was on my couch with his wife, sitting and talking to me within 48 hours of Jan getting killed. You home, JR? Yeah. We want to come by and see you. Okay, come on by. I was just watching March Madness and trying to get over what's happened. And he came over and spent the afternoon unannounced. I'm sure you have better things to do, but he just wanted to make sure I was all right. That's Bobby. So he's got passion, Conrad. He's committed. He's I think the team will play really hard. He's hired a really good staff. They should be fun to watch. And he told me the other day, he said, I think we have like 3 or 4 running plays. They're going to throw that damn
just
ball.
Air it out.
Yeah, Landry Jones is right now the starting quarterback. I don't know how that's going to work out. They say he's got a great live arm because he played behind Roethlisberger, the Steelers, for all those years.
Well, you and I missed, the kickoff this past weekend in the UK, but I'm looking forward to catching up some games. Maybe we need to do an XFL tailgate sometime. That'll be fun.
Well, I don't see why not. But Dallas will be my team because Bob Stoops is there, and I believe in him.
Elliot writes in, how many of the wrestlers actually contributed their own recipes to the cookbook? Can you take the heat? China's guacamole recipe is revered in my house, having been served as part of a picnic lunch on my first date with my wife.
Wow.
So how about that? A little closing action with China's guacamole. Did wrestlers actually contribute, or is
Some
this like
did.
Okay.
Some did. It was like asking defiant students to turn their homework in. They missed their deadline about 10 times, seemingly. Some of them are Johnny on the spot. Some of them, there's where Jan came in. She'd get hold of the whys. Well, he didn't tell me he needed this. He didn't tell me, so she was instrumental in that regard. But not as many as you would think, Conrad. It was a little bit disappointing because they all got a little royalty off of it, but not as many as you'd think. But that's typical. So Jan and Dennis Brent came up with other ideas that fit the character. And I'm not so sure that Joni's guacamole was Joni's. Very well could have been, because she was usually very cooperative and things like that. But a lot of talents didn't do nothing. They just, let's let it slide. And I'd ask them, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell her. Oh, yeah, I forgot. So that's what you get. It's just, yet you can't go crazy about it because that's just how they are.
Brian would write in, what is one match in wrestling history you wish you could have called? That's a great question.
Yeah, it is. Well, selfishly, it would have been the night that Mick Foley won the title, and his first title against, who did he beat? Triple H, man? I don't know who he beat.
Foley's first title?
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat Triple H.
So I was sick. I was on the IR with Bell's palsy, the facial paralysis. I'd love to call.
No, he beat The Rock with help from Triple H and DX. That's what it is. My apologies.
But bottom line is, that was a monumental moment for Mick. And I had pulled every monumental string I could to get him hired. And as I wrote in our first book, Vince, I think, he told me, I want you to know what it's like to get your heart broken, because he's not going to make it. And all of a sudden, Mick just keeps delivering, and then he has these great matches with Undertaker. He had a great influence and still does with the old man. So, all of a sudden, Taker says, I like this dude. I like to work with this cat.
Sure.
So, 6'4", 300 pounds. It's believable to sell a guy like that easily. And he fed a comeback amazingly. And he was just Mick. So that match would have been a good one to call. I'm trying to think. I'd love to have called, and just pick you out one. I called a match where Flair lost the NWA title, or the WCW title. And then I called a match where he won it back. But I'd love to have been to call one of those big high-level NWA title changes, Dusty with somebody, Jack Briscoe and the Funks, those kind of things. So I'd love that, because that's, to me, what my wheelhouse is. My wheelhouse is most definitely hardcore, physical, logical wrestling, and not sizzle, 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 not spot, spot, spot. You don't need me sitting there to say, ooh, oh, what a move. He's over the top. They all caught him. I'm leaving my ass out. Let somebody else call that stuff that believes in it, because I don't believe in it. And if I don't believe in it, I can shit on it, or I can just lay out and not say nothing detrimental or what, and leave my two partners to say what they want to say. And that's kind of what I do in some of the situations. Things are illogical. I can't make them logical.
It's weird that as I'm thinking through like some of my favorite matches, it would have been really weird to imagine your voice over old WWF programming. I don't know why that is.
Well, let me tell you something. There's some programming probably on the network. Lawler and I, and it was in Philadelphia. We got to Philadelphia. They said, we need you guys to do some voiceovers. We're going to race some voiceovers, and we're going to have you guys revoice the stuff. Okay. And a lot of it was Hogan oriented. Hogan is a heel versus Bob Backlund. A lot of the old stuff that, in the 80s, Freddie Blassie and things like that, that was a real blast for me. The pace is a little different.
Yeah.
More deliberate. The stories are being told brick by brick.
I just couldn't imagine replacing Gorilla's The Immovable.
I wouldn't want to do that, man.
I'm just saying, that's so, it fits with it. And the idea that even though you're the greatest wrestling announcer of all time and everyone agrees, if you slide your voice into that spot, it's like, that's like writing with my left hand. I can do it, but it just feels weird.
I'm with you. No, you're right. You're right. I have no business even thinking I could replace or substitute for Monsoon. I meant on Twitter the other day, at JR's BBQ, that, Monsoon and Heenan, there was a little snippet of them on TV.
What a duo.
Oh, magical. Magical. I loved them. Loved them both. Still do.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.